Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Right, hi friends, welcome to another weekly wrap up here on the channel. I'm so glad you popped in to watch me here. Today I think we're doing week 21's weekly wrap up, which is awesome. It is a super rainy day, it's really cloudy, I'm loving the rain, except it's kind of like flooding a little bit and like I need to go somewhere this afternoon and I'm really not looking forward to having to go outside in it. I really like it from the inside. I'm sitting right by my window, that's what I'm looking at. I really like it when it's on the inside. Yesterday there was a big thunderstorm and I was just reading my book and just loving life. It was great. But today it's a little less fun. It's a little more like, really, we're still going. Oh, the ground needs it, but it's not going to be fun when I have to go outside. There's a big puddle out there. But anyway, let us get into the books. I believe we have 9 to talk about today, which is great. There's a lot of new releases. There's some I'm really excited to talk about. So we're about to get into that. First off, I do have some new supporters of the channel to welcome. I am completely fan funded, like 85% fan funded here. So I very much appreciate my viewers and everyone who helps make the Book Refuge keep trucking. It's very welcome for sure. So I do have a new patron to welcome. We have Carolyn C, who recently joined. Carolyn, thank you so much for hopping on. It means so much to me. Lately we've had a bit of an influx in channel members too, which is great. Channel members aren't always something that I remember to push as much, but they are still very important. Channel members are some of the very first supporters of my channel here, so that always makes me very excited. Channel members get access to a monthly chat that's just me and them. They also get to help vote on videos that I make, as well as they get early access to every video that I do, so that's super cool. And they're also at some like lower price points than say my Patreon are, which that definitely does do a bit of the bulk of support for the channel. But anyway, that's stuff that not everyone cares to hear, but I do want to welcome Michaela and Rada. I think I pronounced those right. Thank you both so much for supporting the channel, and I hope that you enjoy being here. It means the world to me. Okay, let us get into these books we have to talk about. I have my notes over here. Sorry, that's why I have to look down. But let's get into it. I had a couple physical arcs to read this month, which was very exciting. I'm very blessed. And the first one to talk about is actually The Pleasure Protocol by Darcy Romaine and Kat Alexander. And this book, y'all, I just gobbled it up. Okay, I just gobbled it up. It was so good. This is a bit, well, not a bit, this is a heavily BDSM romance. It's an escort romance, but damn, it was so good. It was very low angst, it was very spicy, and there was a lot of heart in it as well. So in this, we have CEO billionaire Nikolai Zaitsev, and he has been using an escort service for years. He is bisexual, so he's had both male and female escorts before, and there is a particular escort that he usually uses, and this is escort recently got married and is on his honeymoon. So he's not available for an event that Nikolai had him scheduled for. And so Nikolai is a bit, irritated with that. And this escort is like, hey, don't worry. I know who would suit you just so well. There's my friend Corinne. She's an absolute professional. She's gorgeous. She'll look beautiful on your arm. You should call her up and see if she's available. And so Nikolai is like, okay, whatever. So he goes ahead and gives her a call. And when he meets her, he is like, damn, this girl is beautiful. Not only will she look pretty on my arm, but I would love to get her back to my apartment and have a go with this gal, which I just made that sound super weird. But anyway, so yes, they have a great night at the event. And then when they get back, they have some negotiations and they get into it. Okay. And they discover that they mesh with each other so well. She really loves how he is a dom. He is Sir. She goes by Pet. That's their names for each other. And it's just so sweet. He's a very like loving type of dom for her. He just loves to spoil her, so he wants to buy her lots of presents. He wants to take care of her. After they play, he really wants the aftercare to be very good, even though this is an escort. To him, he's like, it doesn't matter. You're a partner that I played with. You're a human who deserves respect. I ain't just kicking you out the door. I want to complete the whole experience. And I just swoon for that stuff so much. I love it so much. And yeah, they first then decide that weekly they'll meet up, as well as any events that he needs, and they very quickly become addicted to each other. And then you come to the, normal conundrum you have between an escort and their client is, do we really love each other? Is it just all the sex endorphins? Is it just that we play well together? Like, what more is this going to be? And the reason this one is actually called the Pleasure Protocol is that eventually he invites her to some play parties, and these parties have like high protocol where there's not only like the rules that your dominant would have for you, but there's certain rules that happen at the party. So we get to see a couple different parties that happen. But I really just thought this was so sweet. If you're someone who loves heavy BDSM romances, I think you will just love this. I mean, I did. I just flew through this book. I had such a good time with it. But if you're also someone who isn't like sure if you like that, I don't feel like any of the kinks they did were really like too much. There are a lot of ones you've seen before. Like even when she goes by pet, like there isn't any crazy pet play to go with it. I mean, there's collaring, and there is a time where when they go to parties, she likes to wear a leash too, but she isn't like crawling or meowing or going too far, which again, to me, I can get behind sometimes, but not everyone will want to read that. So even though there is sir and pet that's being used, it still works. And there's other books where the nickname is pet for the heroine too. Like there's plenty that I've read where that happens and it doesn't even have any form of it at all. But I just really enjoyed this. I thought it was really good. My only detractor from it is that this was told in third person, and it was third person present tense, and I just didn't, it was hard to get into at first. So the first couple chapters were tough because it still switches perspective. Like it'll say this is Nikolai's chapter, this is Corinne's chapter, but it's all third person, and that can just be tough when we're used to reading a lot of first person romances, or even when, when I'm reading a historical or a fantasy, I'm expecting a third person, but it was just told a little bit clunky. However, this writing duo who are best friends. This is their debut novel, and I quickly got past that. Once I was into the story, it wasn't a detraction anymore. It was just like a hard shift to get into it, is what I'll say. But this was extremely sexy. This was so well done. I very much look forward to reading another book by this pairing for sure. So definitely check them out. I have all of these books linked down below. This is debut authors. So if you like any of the things I've mentioned, or you even just want to give them a try, definitely check them out so we can support some newbies here. And they sent me a beautiful box with this as well. It's actually ones that I signed up for, so they didn't hunt me down. I saw someone posting that they were signing up for this. They might even had an ad that said if you wanted to apply for the PR box, and I did because I was like, oh, it's a beautiful book. I want to check it out. And I love kinky things. So it came with, honestly, like with this really pretty collar, and I actually have an unboxing on my channel so you can see everything that was in it, but it came with this beautiful like collar as well as a cute little like trinket box that's a pomegranate. Like it was really cute. So I ended up giving this a 4.5 star, and it is a 5 on the spice scale because of what I said. There's pretty much sex in every chapter, but there's a lot of really sweet stuff. So it was good. Also, for some of the other kinks, let me tell you that just in case, because I am all about the goodness. There is some, like I said, dynamic play, there's collars, there's role play, there's anal, comfort, and spoiling, and it was very spicy. So lots of goodness in this one. All right, then we had another arc, and this one just came out. This was called Abyss by Swati MH. So I had read another book in this series. Actually, I read the first book in this series for Patreon. I can't remember why I read this one, if it was for a specific patron picked it or if I read it for the month. I actually don't remember. It's been a while. But I knew I'd recognize the author, so when this arc showed up on one of the pages that I use, I was like, oh, let me try this, because this one is a best friend's dad. It's also a office romance, forced proximity, age gap, billionaire, it was all those things. And so this is Hudson and Kavi. And it actually starts with Kavi losing her job at a restaurant when she accidentally spills her, like, some stuff on a customer, and it turns out this customer isn't just any customer. He is like either like a part owner or owner in this restaurant. I can't fully remember what it was. So she loses her job, and she's pretty desperate actually. And her friend is like, hey, my dad is looking for a new admin. Let me make a call and get you in for this because, you know, I want to do you a solid, and it doesn't really matter like who has this job. Let's get you in there. And so she shows up to it, and who should be the boss she'd be working for but the same man who just fired her from a different job. So he owns multiple businesses, and he thinks that she is like flighty and irresponsible, which is stupid things for him to jump to. Those are really bad conclusions because she spilled a tray or like something happened to her. Like that doesn't make her a bad person. Like I've been a waitress before. Shit happens and it's horribly embarrassing, and then to be like fired for it would just be so demoralizing, right? Like who actually gets fired for dropping a tray? You know what I mean? Like it's just so awful. So he like doesn't want to hire her at all. And then he talks with his daughter, who like he really loves his daughter, and he actually has raised her since he was very young. Like he was almost a teen dad basically. So he's very close with his daughter. And which it is a little funny to me that he's never met this friend, but I think it's because like when she became friends with her, they like maybe didn't live in the same place or whatever. But it's like I've met at least tangentially like all of my friends' parents at some point, so it was a little bit like really, but anywho, it doesn't work for the story if we know what it is. And so anyway, because he didn't know her when she spilled stuff on him either, which was interesting. So anywho, his daughter's like, Dad, you need to give her a chance. And also his current admin is going to be going on maternity leave. That's why he needs this person anyway. And so he finally gives in, and he's like, fine, I'll give you a chance. Oh my gosh, there's a robin picking worms out there. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. Sorry. In the rain, there's just a robin literally grabbing worms. Like that's a real thing. So anyway, sorry. So he gives her a chance, and then he finds out that she doesn't have a place to live and she's actually in some trouble. So then not only does he cave and let her work with him, he offers her a place to stay. So now they're also roommates, and eventually the sexual tension is going to boil over and things are going to go from there. So that's what happened in this book. It was all right. My issues with this is this was a grumpy sunshine, but it was also like an asshole grump type of thing. You know, he very much, I'm supposed to believe he's just such this sweet dad who's so loving of his daughter, but then he so quickly is judging like other young women who, you know, because of one bad experience, he's just a complete hard ass to her. And yes, there's a turn. He feels guilty for it eventually, but he's a total asshole. But then I don't even hold that completely against him, because once he turns the corner and likes her and is willing to like admit that he does and everything, she overhears something that causes her to break them up. And it's so frustrating because the things that he's saying is actually super complimentary. He's talking her up to someone and just being so kind. And she overhears one sentence, y'all. One tiny sentence, which is the only sentence that out of context could be bad. And of course, she's like, I knew it. I knew he didn't really want to be with me. I knew I was just a fling. And so she literally moves out, blocks his number, refuses to talk to him, and forces her to track her down in another city so he can explain what was going and find, and is like, why did you just leave me, baby? Like, what happened? So all of the work for me that he needed to do to, like, you know, apologize for being an asshole, I was like, you know what? Maybe he's right, because you heard one sentence and you just believed everything and just literally not only moved out, but changed your number and refused to speak to him until he tracked you down to tell you. Like, it just, it stretched the bounds of believability for me that, you know, you were living in his house and working for him. And that's the other thing. She quit her job, moved out, and blocked his number. And it, for what? And the sentence that he said wasn't even bad. Like, honestly, if I had overheard that, I would have been like, are you being a jerk? And then he would have been like, oh, baby, sorry. No, you didn't hear the whole thing I said. But it honestly, for me, like, confirmed any feelings he might have had about her being too young and irresponsible, which weren't true, she just totally lived up to them. So anyway, this was out of 4. Now talking about it, I feel like it's even less for me because I just was not impressed with her by the end, which just bummed me out. It really did. So it was out of 4 because I read an arc. You guys know I'm not as tough on those, but it was a 3 on the spice scale, and it had some good dirty talk, and some people will find him very swoony. I'm not saying you won't, but it just did not jive for me. All right, then there was Her Way by Nikki Harris. This was my Patreon read for May, so I won't be talking about it here. For my patrons at the Swooning for You level and above, they get a exclusive review from me every month. So I read this book, I annotated it, and that review is available now. If you are a patron, you'll be able to see it. But this was a Mafia Second Chance is what it was. And I had a lot of feelings about it. So if you want to know it, you can check out that video now. All right, then I had a fan fiction that I was very excited to read, and it was called Too Blind by Potato Simp 2023. Now this is my very first Snary fic, which if you don't know would be Severus Snape and Harry Potter. So this was their pairing, and I was really looking forward to reading this pairing. And I will say I still was. What happened with this one was kind of unfortunate because it was a trauma dump. Oh my God, was it a trauma dump? And it just wouldn't stop. Like, it just wouldn't stop. So the scenario of this one is that Harry is an Auror. He has actually had a crush on Snape for a long time. He knows that Snape was a hero, but they believe that Snape died, like, defending all the goodness or whatever. So Snape is known as a hero, and he's been gone for, I think it's 2 years, and there are still some Death Eaters around, and Harry and Ron and the crew, like, they try to, they're fighting him and trying to take him down. And one day they do a raid on a place, and down in the basement they find a prisoner, and it's Severus Snape, and he is a shell of a man. He has been sexually tortured, abused, mutilated, horribly cursed, like just absolutely mistreated and he's literally been broken by a few of the Death Eaters and literally used by them in every sense. They had known he was gay, and so they thought, oh, well, you're gay. How about we just rape you to cure you of being gay? And they use a lot of homophobic slurs against him, and they cruelly torture him. Okay, so Harry, who again has really loved Snape for a while, he had a crush on him, he really cared about him, and now he's finding his hero just mistreated like this. So they rescue him, they bring him back, and he's completely broken. Harry, he's like calling him master and like sir all the time, and Harry's just like, whoa, what's going on? Like, what's happening to him? And he's trying to help him. But it actually even leads to, like, Snape tries to kill himself, and Harry is able to stop him barely and is finally like, okay, we need to do something about this. And so he actually moves Snape in with him to Grimmauld Place and is basically with him like 24/7. He gets a leave from the ministry. They give him literally like leave to take care of a loved one, and he's slowly trying to help Snape get better. And it's actually like really cute because the house over there, like, you know, knows who Snape is and like cares for him so much and is like trying to help. And but it's a tough road to begin with. And, you know, Snape is constantly like trying to subjugate himself to Harry, and Harry is attracted to him. So when Snape is trying to like service him or do stuff for him, Harry has to be like, what are you doing? Like, you do not owe me anything, like, stop. But he can't help but be like turned on at the same time. So it's a big like struggle for Harry trying to do this right and be there for him. And so it's very difficult. So that is the beginning of it, right? It's very dark. And I was okay with the dark part at the beginning of it. I was, because this is where we found him and now we need to help him. It's a little bit like Chasing the Sun, right? We see how horrible Snape is being treated in the beginning of that one. But where it went wrong for me is that not only were there like awful flashbacks that he would have that would be like literally fully detailed, like we might as well have lived through it. The full details of how Snape was broken and all of the rapes that he suffered and just all the cruel things that were done to him and the names he was called. Like, it was just like, I almost like gagged a few times. Like, awful. It was horrible. There was not strong enough trigger warnings for how awful this was. There was trigger warnings. I'm not like, fanfics usually have very good trigger warnings, but I just wasn't prepared because he's rescued and yes, he's having these flashbacks, but do we have to live through all of them again, you know? And then the people who had tortured him haven't been killed yet, so there's threats of them doing this to him again. So it just was like, there was too much trauma in this for me. Like, it was just too much, and I was sad about it because the first half of it was so beautiful with Snape and Harry like coming together, and like, you know, Harry showing him such like comfort and care. Like, it was so beautiful to see, but then to see just, it was a lot. It was a lot. It hurt. It hurt a lot. So I ended up actually, like, I read 80% of this, so I counted it as finished, but I ended up tapping out at about 80% because it just hurt. So I did rate this one a 3. I'm not saying someone else who can't handle the pain won't find this very moving, but I just can tell, like, my stomach has changed over time. You know, like, I've read some very dark fics. I mean, this was way darker than Manacled, I know, but like, I've read some very dark fics and it's so powerful to me. But this one I just couldn't. I was like, okay, I don't need to suffer with this anymore. So beware if you pick this one up. Like, no joke, it's intense. All right, next up, there was A Taste of Whiskey by Melissa Foster. This one, I had an ALC for this one. This is a part of her Dark Nights at Redemption Ranch series. I guess she has a bunch of books that are all connected to each other. She has a ton. I've read a couple Melissa Foster before. One of them was actually an MM romance that I read before, so I've read a few of hers through the years. But this one, there was an ALC available with Must Love Audio, so I snagged it because I just love that. And this one was read by Savannah Peachwood and Aiden Snow, so loved that. This was a single dad. This is a workplace romance. They're actually both therapists in different ways, because Redemption Ranch actually has different addicts and people with different traumas can come for healing. There's like horse therapy, and then yeah, our hero is a therapist. Our heroine is a equine therapist, so that's really cool. But she is also the daughter of his boss. He's also partially in an MC. This is one of maybe the sweetest MCs I've ever written, because they're all members of this, but it wasn't like a huge part of it, just to know as well. He's also a single dad, and they're friends to lovers. Like, they have had a thing for each other for a while. He actually has loved her for a long time, and when he was finally going to make a move with her years ago is when he discovered he got his part-time girlfriend pregnant. And so he was like, I want to be a stand-up dad, you know, where I didn't have the greatest like parent relationships. I want to do that for my kid. So he married this woman and they had their kid, and they didn't work out. So now he's a single dad, shares custody with his wife, who doesn't really seem to care about their kid that much. It's really tough to see, the poor kiddo. So yeah, that is the situation for those two. So it's a slow burn. They try to be friends with benefits, but it's very clear that they're totally into each other, and so they are keeping it a secret. It's also that type of relationship that literally everyone knows that they are doing it. It's that they think they're keeping a secret. So it was really cute. It was very low angst, very sweet. There's not a ton of drama at all. It was a 4 stars and a 3 on the spice scale, so it was very cute. Okay, then I had another ARC physical copy, and that is Drunk on You by Nikki Ash. This is the first in her Love and Whiskey series, and this is going to revolve, I think, around the like Kingston Limited like whiskey company, I think. I don't know how the other ones will connect with this one, but this one is about Anastasia, who is actually the daughter of the CEO of the family's liquor company, and then Julian is like the COO or the CFO. I can't remember who he is, but he's in the C-suite, and she has actually been living in a different country since her mom died. Her father has recently got remarried, and he really realizes how much he missed out on with his family being so focused on his business. So he's planning to retire in the next year or so, and he's going to be looking for a new CEO to the company. And Stacy believes that that should be her, but her father, when she comes to speak with him, he's like, it's not actually a done deal. I don't want you to spend your whole life with this company. I want you to have a family and pay attention to your family, which is it a bit high-handed that he would decide that for her? Yes, but we wouldn't have our story if we didn't, because she's like, so if I'm settled down, then I'm allowed to be a part of it, which seems a bit weird. Then we also have Julian, who, like we said, works for this company. They don't know each other, right? Because she lives somewhere else, and they've never met. He, of course, has heard of Anastasia because he's friends with his boss, too. And he gets told the same thing, basically. He's like, wants to take over as CEO, and he's like, well, you have some competition, and I don't want you to sink your whole life into this company. I want more for you, which, again, not your kid, not your choice. But apparently the CEO's thing is like, he wants the business as a whole to I don't know, to be more kid-focused. You're a fucking whiskey company. What are you doing? So there was a bit of a buy-in to get to that part anyway. But where this leads to, okay, is they both independently decide that they need fake fiancés or whatever. So there's actually this site where you can be paired up with a trophy wife, and Anastasia signs up for it, not because she needs the money. She already is an heiress, whether she'll become the CEO or not. She has lots of money. But she needs a fake fiancé, and he needs a fake fiancé as well. So they decide that they're going to do this, and they'll be fake engaged as long as they need. Now, again, they don't know that it's for the same company that they're doing this. So she moves into town, which she's like, oh, wow, he lives in the same town that I need to be. Anyway, all these things clicking into place. And they meet each other, and they have amazing chemistry right away. Now, they're not planning to have a no-sex rule to start, because they're like, well, I mean, we're going to be fake engaged to each other. We need to be used to touching each other. So before they know who the other person, is, they just know they've both agreed to do this. And they've been going by their nicknames too. So his name is Julian, and he goes by Ian, and her name is Anastasia, and she goes by Stacy. So again, that's another thing that's like keeping them from knowing each other. So, he's moved her into his home, and he's like, yeah, you're welcome here. We welcome my home. And, oh, I actually have a dinner with my boss coming up, so I'm going to introduce you and say you're my fiance and everything. And she's like, cool. So they go to this dinner together, and we realize it's with her father. And so she tells her dad, she's like, well, I had just recently fallen for him. I didn't want to tell you about it yet because it was really fast. And then, Julian's like, yeah, we just recently got engaged and blah, blah, blah. And what I loved is there is exactly one chapter in this book that is from the dad's point of view. And it makes it very clear that the dad knows these two are fishy as hell. And he's like, do they not realize that I realize they're faking it? But I don't know. I think they might be good together, so I'm just going to play along. So that helped me a little bit. I think that was a smart part of Nikki Ash, because she's like, this man who's the CEO of this company, he isn't stupid. He told them both he wanted them to be family focused, and a month later, they both are engaged to each other. Whether it was an accident for them two to be paired up, he's like, maybe this was meant to be. So the dad is in on it without them realizing it, which again, I thought was a clever choice to do. I was here for it. So yeah, then these two, though, they realize that they are each other's competition, and sends them into kind of a rivalry, and they go a little bit too far with some of that, but their chemistry is crazy. They end up fucking each other, and there's really not any angst once they get past that point. There's just, who gets to be in charge? How are they going to do this? Where's it going to go from here? So this was a comedy basically in the back half of it once they really start fighting, and it was very sexy too. Our heroine loves anal, by the way. She's like begging for it all the time, which I thought was really hot. Okay, it was pretty hot. That's her favorite thing. I respect it when it happens, for sure. I have a friend who that's her favorite type of sex. I'm just saying, it's not impossible, especially when you have a good partner who does it for you good, right? Anyway, side note. So I had a great time with this. The setup for the next one, I believe, is supposed to be a single dad one, I think is what it will be, because his friend in here is having some issues with his lady, and they're having a baby. So I think that could be it. So this was fun. It takes a bit to jump over the shark to get, but look at this book. It's beautiful. Nikki Ash, this was a fun read of her, and I'm very thankful that she sent this my way. So I definitely will be, it was even signed to me, which was so sweet. So I definitely will be continuing with the series. I'm signed up for the other arcs in it, and it was a fun time. So I'm here for it. We'll do it. Okay, then I had a quick reread of Us by Sarina Bowen and Al Kennedy. This is the hockey romance series, and this is the second in the duet. I mean, it technically is a series now because there's a novella that goes to the end, but really it's a duet. It was written as a duet. And I was rereading this for a patron. I was annotating it for her, which was so fun. It was great to revisit Jamie and Wes. So this one, there's not a ton to say about it. These two, are now living together, but they're having to keep their relationship a secret because Wes, he wants to at least make it through his rookie season without anyone knowing, because he wants the focus to be on hockey. It's not because he's ashamed of Jamie. It's not because he doesn't want to be out. It's that this is his first season and he doesn't want it to be all about him being the out gay hockey player. That's the reasoning. But it's immediately pretty hard for them, especially when one of Wes's teammates lives in his building and will come over at all hours of the day, even when he's trying to have his alone time with Jamie. And whenever Blake is there, he has to like pretend to just be the roommate and like not go to sleep in their room, and it's crazy, and their schedules are all messed up. There is an illness that we have to deal with in this one too, which I gotta tell you was like wild to read about. Okay, they're talking about a type of flu in this, and Jamie actually has to be in quarantine when he's sick because it might be a contagious flu for everyone. And this was written, y'all, in 2016. Yeah, this was written in 2016, which it was just crazy to read because, yeah, like people had to be in quarantine, and Wes had to put on like full protective gear when he went in and everything, which was just wild to read it here. It's just crazy when that shows up. But anywho, this was just delightful to revisit. I love this couple so much. They definitely go through some struggles in here. There's some growing pains, but they're so sweet with each other. I love them so much, and it was great to revisit this couple. So yeah, this was a 5-star for sure. It's a 2.5 on the spice scale, and it's just sweet. I love the caretaking. I love that they're just great. I love these boys so much. Okay, then I read a very anticipated book, which was Her Villain by S.M. LaViolette. So this is book 6 in the Victorian Decadent series. Now, you can read pretty much any of these ones as a standalone, and in fact, I'm even going to suggest this one as a standalone because I really want y'all to read it, and it's my favorite one in the series, so I'm going to recommend it. This is an erotic Victorian historical romance. This one has a psychopath hero who is an assassin and works for the government, and our heroine is a working girl. She's a sex worker, and the place where she has been, stationed, where she has been working out of, is actually closing, and the money that she'd been saving to move to America, so she's actually only been a sex worker for about 9 months since her father died, and he didn't leave her any money. She didn't have any way to take care of herself, and so she was forced into this, as a lot of women are. But she is educated, she had schooling, and so she's hoping she'll be able to earn enough money, on her back and on her knees to be able to start a new life where no one will know her. But when this place goes under, her money gets stolen from her by her roommate, which is just tragic. And so now she has nothing. And there happens to be, so her name is Callie, and then there happens to be David, who again is our psychopath and assassin, and he's been given a job that he's supposed to carry out in like 6 weeks from now. And he decides he wants to go hire a sex worker for the night. And when he shows up at this brothel, which he's told is a very nice one, there's no one there except for Callie, who is there trying to she's having an argument with the owner, and David is like, can I hire you for the night? And she's like, and he's like, I'll pay you this amount. And so she goes home with him, and he asks to do some pretty wicked things to her, and each thing she's able to upcharge him. He really likes anal as well. There's a lot of anal this week, okay? It's just, be prepared for it. And she really doesn't like that, but he makes it so good. He really loves pleasuring her, so she's so kind of shocked by the things he does to her body. Sex workers don't usually receive oral sex from their patrons, and they don't receive care in lubing them up good enough. Like, she's just kind of, you know, it's not like she's falling in love with him for doing those things, but she's just shocked because she doesn't normally receive pleasure when she's being used or when she's selling her body like this. And he just does it. And so he hires her for the whole weekend. So she's like, okay, now I have the weekend to try to figure out what to do. She's trying to find another job. No place wants to like hire her because she doesn't have references. And also, you know, it's difficult to hide that she was a sex worker. And so she's like begging him to keep her on. And he's in his head is like, no, I'm not going to do that. But through some shenanigans, or, you know, shenanigans, the wrong word, but through some cajoling, she gets him to play a game with her, and they play chess. And at first she loses to him at chess, and he's like, wait, you let me win? And she's like, I mean, yes. And he's like, well, letting me win, like, that's a form of lying, and I hate lying. And she's like, well, men usually like to win. And she's like, well, I don't want you to do it by lying. Play again. So they play again, and she beats him in like 10 moves. And he's like, literally starts getting hard by the fact that she beat him. Like, he is so into it. He's just like so hot for her. And so he decides that he will keep her for now. And so he makes a deal with her that she can live with him and, you know, service him until his job happens in 6 weeks from now. And the only qualification she has is to be in the drawing room to play chess at 8 o'clock and be upstairs ready for sex at 9 o'clock. And that's all that she has to do. And so during the day, she'll be able to get another job, which she does find a place to get another job at. And that's all. But of course, you know, they spend more and more time together, and he very much is written like a psychopath. It is fascinating how he's written. And, you know, there are secrets in his house, secrets that she's not supposed to know. And there is more and more they find out about each other. And she really becomes addicted to, I mean, he is a sadist, but he also loves that she submits to him to do it. So there is a lot of, you know, sexual dynamics and like games being played that way too. He finds out things that she doesn't like and then wants to do them to her and make her like them. And so there's a lot of mind games that he plays with her, but she, you know, she wants to hate him, but also he's good to her at the same time. And there's a scene in this, y'all, I don't want to spoil. I really want you to read this one. I really do. If you love erotic, if you love BDSM, if you love historicals, if you like, oh, this was so good. It was such a good dark romance. And it reminded me a lot of, can you tell? It reminded me of Run, Posey, Run. The fact that this man only wants sex from this woman, but then he's also intrigued by her brain. And that gets him hotter than her body does sometimes, right? I mean, he still wants to fuck her all the time. I won't say different. But just the way that, you know, he thinks he doesn't want her to talk. He thinks he just wants her to play chess and let him fuck her. But then there's a time where she is like quiet for a few days, and he like misses her talking to him, and she like makes a deal with him that, okay, I want you to let me talk with you after sex. I don't want you to just get up and leave. It makes me feel bad. And they negotiate that. And then, oh, the scene that I love, the scene that you guys have to read is what he does for her birthday. I won't spoil it for you, but he finds out when her birthday is, and he's never had a birthday. Okay, this man is in his 40s. He's never had a birthday. Because of his life. He has a very sad backstory, y'all. It's very, very sad what his backstory is, of course. For the amount of trauma he has, we're not surprised. But finds out it's her birthday, and he asks his cook, like, what do I do for someone's birthday? And she's like, well, usually get them something nice. You get them a present. We make them a cake. And so he gets the cook to make her a cake, and then he, like, serves her dinner, and then he gives her her present, which I won't tell you what her present is. But it is not as simple as you might think it is, for sure. So yeah, this was amazing. So I ended up reading a couple escort romances this week, and they were both fantastic. So this book, it was 5-star. I mean, nothing less for SM La Violette. I mean, her stories just always stun me, and she doesn't always write the most likable characters, but it has those dynamics of a dark romance where you just can't look away from it. Oh, it was so good. So highly recommend. It was almost a 6-star book, y'all. It was so close to a 6-star book. The only reason it isn't is because some of the background plot, just, I didn't care about it. I just cared about these two. So if that plot had played out a little better, I might have liked it more, but it was 5-star. It was great. It's a 5 on the spice scale, of course. Very sexy. As we said, there's anal, there's bondage, there was some pretty graphic violence and stuff as well, and it was very good. But sadly, we do have to end the week on a low note, and I was really bummed about this. So I saw this book, somebody on Instagram had read it, and it's called Possession by BJ Alpha. Now, I've never read anything by BJ Alpha before. I've definitely seen them around, but this one was book 2 in the Mafia Daddy series, and I saw all the kinks written down. So all of the kinks for this one, there are so many. There was some daddy kink. It said there was lactation kink, which y'all know I'm looking for more of those so that I can make a video about it. So I was like, ooh, I'll read this one. There was breeding. There's water sports, used in a very interesting way. I won't lie. I won't say that that wasn't intriguing how it was used. There was cock warming. There's some DDLG. So it had all of these kinks listed, and I was like, ooh, okay, I should read this because this might be good for some of my kink videos. But this man was awful. I didn't like him at all. It starts with him literally forcing this girl to be a nanny for his son. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. But it's because he sees her. And it was that case of like, he sees her and she's the friend of his, is it his brother? Of his brother's wife? I don't even know what the pairing was or whatever. I don't know how it was. But basically he like saw her and was like, I want to fuck her. I want to subjugate her. I want her to take care of my kid. So he sees this woman, doesn't know who she is. She's only 18 years old, takes her, brings her home, and like becomes her daddy. Like literally takes her home, forces her to suck his cock in the car on the way to his house. And she just like likes all of it. Like she's just totally in. This virgin girl is just totally fine with this guy becoming her daddy, fucking her, you know, making her suck him off with barely even saying his name, and then having her watch his kid. And then I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on with this, because it didn't feel like a captive, but it totally is. She's not allowed to leave. And then she is literally watching his son, and one of his like men, I think it's one of his men, is in there talking with her, and he doesn't like her talking to one of his men, and he shoots him, not only in front of her, but in front of his 3-year-old son. He shoots this man in front of him, and the little boy, who already has like some mental trauma, like it's already said that he's behind in his like speech and some other things from some trauma of his mother's death, and he murders this man who is only talking to his nanny in front of his dad. And like, and then the girl's just like, oh my God, what did you do? And the little boy's just like, Papa, Papa. And he's like crying at it. And I was horrified, y'all. I was just like, any of the other sex stuff that was going on in here, I was completely done. He shoots the man in front of his kid for touching the lady. He kills someone else later on too, who like kisses her, which I guess, fine, the kissing happened or whatever. But that man that he shot in front of his son for no reason, but for talking with her, I was like, I don't care if this is called possession. That is unhinged in a way that is disgusting. Like, he killed him in front of his 3-year-old for touching her, and not inappropriately touching her, or like, I think that one was only talking to her. So I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, how is that anything? Anyway, so all of the other sexy things were just completely done. And so I was done. I DNF'd it at, I had like skimmed a little further to see if there was any turnaround, but he was abusive. He was forcing her to be his little girl, DGLG stuff. And then also she was into it. Even after he murdered someone in front of his 3-year-old son, and she's having to hold the boy and console him from having had to see this horrible thing. She's into it. Like, it was just gross, y'all. I'm sorry. That was disgusting. Why? Why would you put that in a book that a child would have to see that? That it was bad enough if he'd, like, done it just in front of her for no reason to, like, punish her. None of this is her fault. You've kidnapped her and forced her to be here and watch her kid, and then you're doing this. Like, it was gross. So, did I rant enough? I don't know. So, I didn't rate this one because I didn't finish it. But it would be like a 0 to me. Like, it's a 1. That is awful. That makes no sense. Come up with a better thing, okay? I'm disappointed. That was just, I'm sorry. The violence in front of a child when you're supposed to be the love interest in this is, I have no, like, I rant about it because it deserves it. That was ridiculous. The kid didn't need to be in the room, okay? I don't care if it's a fictional kid. Enough shitty stuff happens to kids in real life. I didn't need to see that. It was gross. So, like I said, we ended the week off on a firecracker because I DNF'd that last night and I was like, what the hell are we doing here? Okay. All right. Stuff I'm currently reading because I don't want to end it on such a bitchy thing. I am rereading God of Fury. Loving that. I did just start a major puck up, which I think will be out before the next week's one comes out. But that's I think it's supposed to be hockey because it does say that. But I think he's like a coach or an owner, though. I don't know that he's a player anymore. And it's his best friend's daughter. So I'm liking that one. So I'm enjoying that. I'm also going to be starting an alien romance when I finally drive home in all of this rain today. I will be reading Ruling Strickland, the next Victoria Aveline. The audiobook just came out. So that's what I'll be reading this week. So anywho, thank you all so much for putting up with me and the craziness that this was. I have links to all the books down below, so if you purchase through one of those links, it does help the channel out. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye.